I don't know about where you're from, but in the United States, MPVs are widely considered to be the ride of choice for plumbers and mothers. No offense to either party, but the point is that MPVs just aren't cool, and they certainly don't handle. Well, maybe until now. This is the XPengX9, a new style of cool, potentially, MPV that allegedly also can handle as well as a large SUV. Time to find out if either of those things are true.
As of recording, XPeng had yet to release official pricing for the X9. All we know so far is the pre-sale price for the base version, which is $54,500 US.
Interestingly, XPeng insists that the X9 is actually not an MPV. It's something new, something they call a large 7-seater. Admittedly, the branding could use a little work, but it's hard to deny the fact that the X9 looks like no other MPV on Earth. It forces one to ask the question, is it possible to make coupe MPVs in the same way that we have coupe SUVs? My heart says no, but my eyes say, maybe. This is the part where I tell you that this rakish design isn't just for looks. Thanks to the 21-degree slope of that A-pillar and the 23 degrees of the rear, XPeng was able to achieve a drag coefficient of just 0.227. That means this 5.3 meter long, nearly 2 meter wide MPV has a lower drag coefficient than a Tesla Model Y.
That's not as low as the 0.215 of the Li Auto Mega, but the X9 also doesn't look quite as polarizing as the Mega either. Don't worry, we'll be reviewing that bullet-headed MPV early next year.
The X9 may look like no other MPV on Earth, but it still looks like an XPeng. More specifically, the XPeng P5 sedan, from which it borrows its edgier styling language. Congratulations, P5, you are no longer the black sheep of the XPeng family. What's new about this design? Well, apart from this nifty honeycomb front grille, it's also got the brand's first light-up rear logo. Ooh la la. These premium EVs all have a set of features that they tend to share. We're talking about real leather seats with heating, cooling, and massage function, as well as things like folding tables, leg rests, recline. The X9 has all of these things. The seat functions are controlled by a set of physical buttons here on the seat. It's also got a panel on the back of the center console where you can control your air conditioning, and below that, something many of its competitors lack, an electrically opening and closing heated and cooled storage area. The X9 also has a pocket for storing your phone, next to which is a 60-watt USB Type-C charging port. That's on both seats. Both doors have a touchpad where you can control the overhead sun visor, as well as operating the windows and the TV. And oh, what a TV it is. It measures a massive 21.4 inches. Not only does the way that it unfolds look super high-tech, it also allows it to have adjustable angle. That way, you can adjust it to suit whatever angle your seat is at, ensuring you always have a comfortable view of the TV.
The adjustable screen comes in even more handy when combined with the optional zero-gravity second-row seats. These combine to provide a viewing experience that makes watching a movie on my couch feel like torture in comparison.
The screen's angle will adjust automatically if you have those zero-gravity seats. If you don't, as is the case with our car, you can adjust it via the screen itself or using the remote. There's a little button here on the side. This is, of course, the same remote that you use to control the screen. It does so using a combination of buttons and a trackpad like you would find on your laptop. It's a nice solution because not only does it feel a little bit more advanced than a regular remote, it's also easier to learn and more precise than gesture controls. The X9 also has something that XPeng calls X Free Breath. That is a series of 6,000 little holes that run along the roof of the car. It is the world's first, according to them at least, wraparound air conditioning system. It's made up of 6,000 individual holes, though apparently only about 2,000 of them actually have air coming out of them. It looks pretty fantastic, especially when combined with the 3.6 meter LED strip that runs beside it. As for how it feels, well, it's a bit like being on an airplane because most of the air conditioning feels like it's coming from above you. Again, it looks really cool. My only complaint is that there's no way to close the vents. You have to either use the panel here, use the center screen, or use voice commands. If you've got those seats equipped with a zero gravity mode, then there is a no pass-through. Instead, you have to come from the side. We have no such problem, so I can just shimmy in between. The X9 has a wheelbase of nearly 3.2 meters, so space is absolutely plentiful, even here in the third row. I am 5'9" or 1.75 meters tall, and I've got almost 3 fists worth of space. I've also got a very decent amount of headroom because that rear glass doesn't really impact it at all. What it does impact is rear cargo space, but XPeng has a solution for that. Namely, it's got a very, very deep rear cargo area. Thanks to this, it can still fit an impressive 755 liters of cargo. That means 7 24-inch suitcases. If you want to get the maximum 2,554 liters of space, you're going to need to lay down these third row. Look at all this space. Granted, there's a bit of a dip from the third row down to the second row area here, but still, you can fit an absolute metric ton of stuff in here. I always forget how big the dashboards are on these MPVs. You can run a whole tennis tournament on that thing. I'm also noticing something else, which is that the exterior design team and the interior design team of this car didn't seem to talk very much. The outside is all straight lines and spaceship vibes, whereas the interior is much more, curvaceous. Of course, that doesn't mean the driver's compartment isn't high tech. Up in front of me, you've got a 17-inch center screen with XPeng's excellent UI. Next to that is a 10.25-inch digital instrument cluster. These two screens are powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8295 processor. The final screen, that's up here, a digital rear view mirror. There is, however, no heads-up display.
The X9 also has X Opera, the brand's 2,180-watt surround sound system with 23 speakers. Sound quality is top-notch, and the bass is teeth-rattling.
The cherry on top is an all-new steering wheel design with a offset XPeng logo. I quite love it. I think it adds a bit of funkiness to what is otherwise a relatively conservative interior design, including this real wood trim. But enough about style. This is one of the few MPVs where I'm actually curious as to how it drives. So let's get to driving. But first, let's let it drive us, because the X9 is equipped with the latest version of XNGP. That's XPeng's driver assistance system with NOA, or navigation on autopilot, both here in the city and on the highway. That's accomplished via 29 different sensors, including 2 forward-mounted LiDAR units, as well as twin Orin X chips with a total of 508 TOPS computing power. The first time I used this system in Guangzhou was behind the wheel of an XPeng G6, and I had my reservations about the way that it performed, specifically in very complicated high-traffic areas. I did, however, have a ton of praise for the driver monitoring system, which was very rigorous. Honestly, I think my impressions of the system so far are more or less the same. There have been some minor improvements, however. I'm not going to get deep into them, though, because we do have a much more detailed review of the XNGP system coming soon. Underneath the spaceship styling of the X9 is some, well, not spaceship level technology, but still premium technology. Double wishbone front suspension, H-arm multi-link rear. It also has dual chamber air suspension with constant damping control. It uses the cameras from its driver assistance system to scan the road ahead and adjust the stiffness of that suspension in response to road conditions. What's more, the X9 also has up to 5 degrees of rear steer. That means it has a turning radius smaller than a Honda Civic, despite being longer than a Chevy Tahoe. That is very noticeable and useful in tight parking situations. Even more noticeable, if arguably less useful, is the power, especially in this dual-motor all-wheel drive performance version. It's got 370 kilowatts and 640 newton-meters of torque. That means it can get to 100 kilometers per hour in 5.7 seconds and onward to a top speed of 200 kilometers per hour. Who needs an MPV with 370 kilowatts? Exactly 0 people. But that's the wrong question to be asking. What you should be asking is, who wants an MPV with 370 kilowatts? I reckon that number is a lot more than 0. There is also, for those less power mad, a single motor front wheel drive version that makes a more modest 235 kilowatts.
Underneath this big MPV body is your choice of 2 battery packs, a 101.5 kilowatt-hour ternary lithium pack or an 88.5 kilowatt-hour LFP pack. Single motor models have a claimed CLTC range of 610 kilometers with the smaller pack and 702 kilometers with the larger pack. Our dual motor model is only available with the larger pack, which provides a claimed range of 640 kilometers.
What's more, it comes standard with an 800-volt silicon carbide charging architecture that can charge at up to 330 kilowatts. XPeng claims it can add 300 kilometers of range in just 10 minutes, or go from a 30 to 80% state of charge in 16 minutes. So all of this suspension technology, all of this power, what does it add up to? Well, according to XPeng, it should add up to an MPV, or large 7-seater, that handles as well as a large SUV. Thing is, I would take it a step farther. I would say that this thing outhandles at least some large SUVs that I've driven. This thing changes direction with a willingness that I certainly didn't expect from such a big vehicle, and it's still really, really comfortable thanks to that air suspension. China's electric MPV segment is an increasingly crowded one, so if a manufacturer is going to have a go, they need to bring their A game. Thankfully, that's exactly what XPeng has done with the X9. This thing's exterior styling might be a bit polarizing. You might hate it, I certainly love it, but what you can't deny is the fact that it has the type of family-friendly, high-tech interior that Chinese consumers are looking for. It adds to that the best driving experience of any MPV that we've ever reviewed. If ever there was an MPV that could carry the torch for Chinese cars into Western markets, I think it might be this one.